Okay, so this is chapter 2 on the topic of stress. I want to pick up where we left off. We left off in the previous lecture talking about stress defined on that daily or the daily hassles model, as opposed to the life adjustment points. In this lecture, I want to begin discussion. I'll set my timer here. I want to begin discussion on the topic of the physiology of stress, right? So as I hope you have already learned in your life, like stress is part of what we would call it triggers your fight or flight response, which in 1930s was just two. It was the idea that you either duked it out, you either fought, or you got the heck out of there. They've since added a third category, and that's fight, flight, and freeze. So some people just become frozen, just become completely paralyzed when they're stressed out. This is the work of the sympathetic nervous system, as we talked about in chapter 2. That's the nervous system that wants to protect you, feel sorry for you, right? Wants to keep you alive. And the sympathetic nervous system, well, both systems actually trigger the endocrine system, also from chapter 2. The endocrine system is otherwise known as your hormone system. Your endocrinologist studies your hormones. Which includes your hypothalamus. It's a structure in the brain. It triggers, or it tells your adrenal glands to secrete hormones. Amongst those hormones are things like cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. These are all this fancy word here, and I should have looked it up before I started recording. Shoot, that's terrible. Okay. Obviously, I'm not going to quiz you about the name of the category of hormones there, but it is important to understand what is referred to as your general adaption syndrome. So to the question, stress makes you sick. No, that is false. Stress does not make you sick. In fact, a little bit of stress actually triggers your immune response. This is why, no stress is not good, because a little bit of stress kicks up that sympathetic nervous system. It kicks up your immune response. The reason we become sick when we are under chronic stress is because of this phenomena, the general adaption syndrome. And that is what happens when we overtax our stress system. When we are so stressed out for so long that our body wears out, it becomes exhausted, right? So this theory works like this, is that you have this homeostasis, you have the level, you have a little bit of stress, your body goes, oh, I got to respond, right? That's that alarm stage. And for a period of time, you can do pretty well here. So it's like some people probably function better. I know I do. I function better when I'm under a little bit of stress, but after a period of time, I'm wiped out. I'm completely exhausted. So we go through this resistance stage, and you can see how your immune response is actually higher under this period, but eventually it makes you ill. Does not make you ill, but eventually your immune response wears out, it drops off. And that's when you get sick, and we become more susceptible. Some experiment did something like this. They exposed them to chronic stress for a period of time, and then they exposed them to like the cold virus, right? Okay, so another way of thinking about this, the stages of stress, you have this model called the Yertz-Dodson. And what this theory tells us, so this theory up here illustrates how too much stress wears our immune response down, and we become ill. The Yertz and Dodson's model is the model of why that we all have the sweet spot. We all have this point where we actually perform better. And that's the Yertz model law of arousal that says when stress is really, really low, when things are just too easy, when things are too repetitive, we don't do anything. We have very little motivation. We don't perform very well. When it's too hard, when we have too many expectations, too many demands, we also don't perform very well. But there is the sweet spot that all of us have. And these are what we would call in the chapter on motivation, moderately challenging, right? And this is that optimal performance. So the key for people who are in highly demanding occupations is to what we would call overlearn something, where you take something that is really challenging and you do it over and over and over and over and over again. So it's no longer motivating. So it's no longer as challenging. So an example is often the best, I think it actually might be the example that's in the textbook, is the example of the pilot, and now his name escapes me, that landed the plane on the Hudson River. Sully, I think maybe was his name, right? I mean, that is a very challenging thing to do. People don't land planes on the river, on the Hudson River. But he had had so much practice in this very high demand occupation, right? It shifted from being so hard and so impossible that he was able to be at his optimum performance right here in the middle. When you're new to the occupation and landing any plane is really hard, landing a plane on the river would be too hard. But when you've landed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of planes and it's no longer a thing, right? Then something that's more challenging becomes that optimal. I hope I'm making some sense. I hope you can sort of apply this to your life. Maybe athletes, right? Athletes who do the same thing over and over and over and over again, that's really easy. And now you need to up it a little bit. You need to challenge yourself. This is also the same reason that sometimes we get bored at doing the same sport or doing the same game or doing the same occupation, because what was once challenging is now too easy. So the point is that, you know, we will perform our best when it's moderately challenging. And I see errors in the fonts on that one too. Okay. So I think I'm going to stop this video lecture right here and come back and talk about, and come back and talk about these other ideas in the next one.